This is the painter's breakfast. It is snowing outside. This is like the first snow we've had this year, and I mean, the first one to stick in a while. I mean, they didn't really stick in December, so it's kind of how it's going. I got the piece I'm working on right now, the commission piece. I really love it. I think it's cool. Um, and then, yes, of course, breakfast, naturally. That's why we're here. Um, yeah, it's been going really well, actually. The move went well. We've done all these things. I've definitely hurt my hands quite a bit with all the painting stuff, but I mean, it's part of the career. It's part of the life, honestly. You kind of just lube up, really, with lots of icy hots and whatnot to really kind of counterbalance all the stuff you're doing. Have my hat on today because I did not feel like doing anything with my hair. So this is what you get. Eau de natural with a side of hat. So yeah. I got my mushroom coffee that most people don't like, but I like it. And yeah, my crab sandwich, or imitation crab sandwich. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. Like, I got into imitation crab when I was really, really young. My mom and I were at a market, and someone had brought it up as a possibility because, like, coming from the Caribbean, we ate a lot of seafood and a lot of stuff like that, but it wasn't like in the 80s and 90s, like you could get salmon, maybe you could get tuna or like I think tilapia was like eventually came about as like foods that were readily accessible for other people. And so imitation crab meat was something someone brought to my attention. We'd gone to like one of those like road show type things. North Carolina has all these weird towns that are full of like themed towns. Like there's a Christmas town. It's very weird. It's like all year long it's just Christmas. And they have like trees and they sell like decorations and they have like ciders and it's like literally just all year. There's like a huge mall that is just like a Christmas mall. It's kind of wild. But also, they have like these food market things, which are very similar to kind of. My wife works for a co op, and so, hey, Edwin. Um, you would, hello. Um, so, my wife works for co op, and so she will sometimes go to like a food. I'm trying to think of the right words. Expo. So they had lots of weird like little expos that we would go to and check things out. And in that, we would see all these kind of interesting. Hey, Jesse. You would see all these like interesting little foods that you've never really tried before. So like imitation crab meat, a lot of like veggie burger type stuff, like a lot of kind of just they're just interesting. How it all Bob Marley's cousin. Nice. I was waiting for one of you. I knew one of you was gonna come in roasting hard. Um, how complete is the art behind me? It's got a lot to go still, honestly. I got more I gotta do with it. I gotta do layering as far as like washes go. I've gotta do like an actual background. Um, and then I have a secret plan that I plan on doing with it. So probably like 50% maybe. Is that a real answer? I don't know if that's a real answer as far as what people want to hear, but yeah, about 50%. I really I've learned how to kind of get better with seeing what I want to do beforehand while I'm working on a painting. Is that a portrait or a character? A character. It's a commission, but it's of a character. No, I don't really do portraits anymore. I feel like portraits are kind of difficult sometimes because like You want to do, I don't know, you want to do portraits for people, but like they get real particular about it. So if you change something just a tiny bit in like a face shape, then it's not really them anymore. And I think a lot of times people want like they don't want into artistic interpretation sometimes. They want something more the idea they have in their mind that they haven't articulated. So I find it better to make something original for people. It has a tendency to just kind of work out a little better, you know. So, but if you want to see it, I'll move out of the way. That's that thing right there is what you're talking about. Yeah, it's snowing. Crazy, right? It's we don't get snow as much as we used to in Maryland. We used to get it every year, and then it kind of stopped happening. We got like little kind of snow flurries, but nothing that really sticks. Thank you. I'm glad you like the painting. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of it. It's hard. It's a hard painting, and I've definitely hurt my hands a little bit working on some of the tiny details. But I think that's a good thing. That's important. That you hurt yourself. No. I think it's important because like you should take pride in what you work on. And if you gotta sacrifice yourself a little to do it, then that's okay. Eat some of the sandwich. It's talking to me. It's like, hey, come here. Eat me. It's not very good. Mm-hmm. So I did something a little different that I typically don't do when I do sandwiches. I toasted it a little bit beforehand. That's not an original. I have the same painting at my house as Scooby. That's amazing. That's amazing that you and I. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me. Since you said that, let me read it. Let me read it the way it's written, so that way we can both mess with each other. That's not an original. I have the same pairing at my house. I'm like I am a pairer, so that's fair. This pair's breakfast, so we all win. No, thank you very much. I'm glad you like it though. It's I've been working on it for a bit now, so I'm happy that it's turned out so well, and I'm glad everybody's liking it. I mean, I'm hoping the buyer really likes it. I meant the sandwich, not the painting pair. That's funny. Okay. Well, I misunderstood and I apologize. That's really funny. The pairing in the sandwich with the thing. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It's a lot of ink right now. There's no watercolor in it. I have a lot of pigments as far as ink goes. So I have my main ink that I use from Yoshitomi, and they're my forever sponsor, so I always appreciate them. So most of it's done with their ink. They're black Sumi ink, and then the rest is done with like the gold is done with Winsor and Newton ink. They have like a gold that I use. It separates a lot, so you kind of have to do this whole thing for a while, and then it kind of goes. And you just kind of scrape the bottom and do it thick. There's a whole technique you got to do when you're a painter. It's just how it works out. You have to figure out how to kind of get stuff going in the directions in which it moves. There will be some watercolor in there eventually. Not where people would expect though. Can't see the finger. Not where people would expect though. But something is coming. That'll be interesting. Little Basquiat in the corner there. Can't see him. There we go. Yeah. I mean, it's really nice though. It's a nice day to kind of work on the painting. I'm gonna work on the background today and try and figure out all the different stuff I want to do. Do you ever do the lives while doing the painting? I do. Um, I do a thing called sketch club, sketchbook gang, which is like it's a rare occasion. I don't do it that often anymore, just because spacing. But I think I'll do some more. I've got a good setup where I can kind of position the camera to be in like just a solid spot and not really be a problem, and then I can just kind of catch the whole thing. I think the only problem I ever had with doing live painting stuff while I'm doing it is people want to have conversations with me, and like my back is turned to them for all intents and purposes, or maybe I'm so engrossed in the painting that I don't come back to questions fast enough for people. So I'm always trying to tell people, I'm like, you guys got to just talk amongst yourselves while I'm doing some of this stuff. But I like it. I like it. Is this a hobby or a profession? Profession. When did you start doing art? I started making art when I was like 4 years old. So I'm almost on 40 years of painting at this point. I'm in my 40s. So, but I'm not quite 44. So that's how that worked out. The first painting I ever did was of Balrog from Street Fighter. I was like, I had like a Game Informer. Bro, you don't look 40? I'll take it. I'll take it. Um, yeah, it was like a Game Informer, like a little digital, like 16-bit type of drawing. But I figured out how to do it with like watercolor pencils, and like that tearaway paper that printers used to have in the 80s. And so they used to have these printers that would be like on a track, and you would feed the computer paper in, and it had like these terrible sides that you would take off, and like that's how it worked. And I used to steal reams of that from my father's office, and yeah, I would just draw and paint and do all that stuff. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid, so it kind of worked. It worked out in the long run. I make art now as a professional. Let me see. You got 20 years over me, but you look 35, bro. Nice. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think a lot of times it's like a young at heart thing, where some part of me is young. I'm not sure what part. I'll find it eventually, but it's holding out, and that's all that matters. So that's as we do, while we do, type of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think if you want to kind of focus on things that you're passionate about, and then kind of work towards those, you'll find yourself to be rather youthful as time goes by, because I don't know, you're following your passions. You know, I think that's kind of the thing. Like honestly, like that's probably the big thing for me. That if you're passionate about something and you keep working towards it, then you will find that your creativity kind of, I don't know, keeps you from being idle. A lot of times they've said, like, with older people who go into nursing homes, a lot of times, like, they say the biggest problem they run across is like they stop learning things, and then their brain kind of atrophies a bit. So I would say the same thing goes with kind of growing older. You have to keep your mind sharp and work on what you're passionate about. When I was in college, they tried to get everybody to be into like computer fixing IT stuff, but like most of us weren't into it, so they got all these people to do it, and then they weren't really passionate about it, and they quit after a couple years, and then they ended up doing something else, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else, and I feel like if they had gone after something they were passionate about, maybe they would have stuck with it. I mean, money plays a factor into it also, but there's something to be said about like following your passions. Even if they evolve and they change and they flex and they do all this stuff, like it's important to just kind of lean into that. I saw that a lot during the pandemic. Like people didn't have hobbies and they were going crazy. Didn't have hobbies, didn't have passions. They worked and they like come home, they play a video game. They're not really, I don't know. It's a hard question. No judgment, but it's a hard question I think for a lot of people to figure out what they're passionate about and then how they can like do that in some way that they can continue to do it for the rest of their life. Because you're going to change your mind occasionally. I mean, I stopped painting a couple of years in college, after college, because I was just so burned out. Sometimes that happens, you know. Let me see. Can I ask for tattoo advice? What's your worst regret involving tattoos? Um, my first tattoo was this guy. My first ever tattoo was this one, and I got it via $100 flash on a wall. Unlike it, they had a book. I wanted a dragon tattoo for my 18th birthday. I got it on my 18th birthday. I don't mind the tattoo. It's very nice. I've only seen one other person who's ever had this tattoo, and it had like a sun right there. Um, and it was just kind of interesting. But I guess that's what I would probably say. Like, if you're going to do something, if you're going to get a tattoo, like, sit down with an artist and like figure out something. I don't regret the tattoo. It's a good tattoo. It's held up. I mean, this tattoo is, let me see, it's 2025 right now. I got this tattoo in the year 2000. I think that's right. Yeah. So this is a 25-year-old tattoo. um, it's good. I don't really have too many bad tattoo things. I mean, I would say that they hurt. Be prepared for a tattoo to hurt. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. Thoughts on colored tattoos? I have a colored tattoo on my knee, actually. Give you an idea. I have a few. I have a few colored tattoos, but my knee is probably my biggest colored tattoo. So I got that one. They're good. I mean, you just gotta sit longer is probably the main thing. If you have if you have any allergies to any types of color sensitivity, you're gonna find out, and that could look like a variety of different things. Like a lot of people have allergies to color. It's not that uncommon. Typically, it just raises a little bit. On average, you're not gonna get like an infection or anything, but you know, it's good to realize that could happen. I think color tattoos are beautiful, but I love a good black and gray tattoo too. I mean, I think it's more about the design than it even is. The color is kind of just like a component in the tattoo. And I mean, I have black and, I've got my tattoos all over. And there's still occasions where I think I might go back and get color added to them to make them more kind of flavorful, I guess. Interesting probably would have been a better word. Well, whatever. I think for the most part, you have to just kind of think about it. Think about what you want. Don't rush into it. You're gonna have them forever, so unless you want to pay a lot of money to have them removed, which some people do, but I don't feel like you have to. I think a lot of times, like your favorite tattoos are sometimes your worst tattoos. Because they're involving like a story in your life, a moment, a feeling, a time spent, something. So I was trying to do that. It's like my next tattoo is going right here. It's gonna be a very special tattoo. That means a lot to me because it's an illustration my wife did, and we've been doing these type of illustrations for each other for a long time. There's a creature called Domo. I don't know if anybody knows who Domo is. Domo is this weird little creature from Japan. He kind of looks like a jelly bean with a face, no arms and legs, a brown one, and he's just this crazy looking thing. And we saw him once at a Target. I feel like a plushie, and that's how this whole thing started. And on like Valentine's Day and our birthdays and stuff like that, we used to draw each other Domo cards. And my wife has always kind of done like these like arts and crafts cards of Domo that I loved. And she draws herself as Domo, which is probably my favorite thing. And the funny thing is, it's like an older version of herself. Or sorry, it's a younger version of herself when we first started dating, and that's who she draws of it. And it's just cute. It's just very cute. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I framed one, and we have it in our new place, and I like to look at it. It makes me happy. And I think that's kind of what you should do as far as your tattoos go. Like, not every tattoo has a long story to it. I think a lot of them don't. A lot of them are just like, yeah, I liked it. I like dragons. I like turtles. You know? But I mean, I don't know. You figure out what you want. I think the only advice I can give to anybody who wants to get tattoos is don't be 18 with like a full back tattoo, full sleeves, a chest piece, your hands, your throat, your face. Like, it's meant to be a journey. And you're gonna change your mind about what you think is the most important thing as time goes by. Like, I've cultivated this love for Domo for like 20 years. So that is different than, today's most interesting thing was this thing, and that's what I'm getting done right now. But some people love those tattoos. Some people live on those tattoos forever. I think the interesting thing for a lot of these people is they get the blackout tattoos over their old tattoos, and then they get those tattoos lasered off. And I'm just like, it just seems like you have a lot of money and you're indecisive, maybe. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I knew all these kids who covered from head to toe, barely 18. And I'm like, geez, man, you sat through all that? That's crazy. That's so much. That's like days of sitting through getting tattooed. It's painful. It's beautiful, but it is painful. Um, That's just wild. But you know, if that's your passion, that's your passion. Maybe they're gonna be a model. Maybe that's it. A lot of them were dudes though. Like I knew a lot of women who had a lot of tattoos, but the people I knew who were fully covered at like 18 were like these like hipster guys or whatever. They weren't really called hipsters when I was a kid. When I was probably in my 20s, I think they called them like scene kids or emo kids or whatever. I don't know. When I was in school, they were called just goth kids. We just called them goth kids, punk rock kids. But it all expands, you know. It all just grows and expands and becomes the things that it becomes at whatever rate it goes at. And you're just kind of watching it as it rotates, you know? It's interesting, honestly. I'm really liking this sandwich, I gotta be honest with you. I had some last night. I made it last night, and I had some for lunch. I really liked it then. Now it's had like more time for everything to kind of settle and blend flavorly. It's just better. It pops. It's got that bite to it. There's chilies in it, and onions, and mustard, and mayonnaise, and salt and pepper, and sazon, and paprika. Oh yes, paprika. Um, it's just very good. You need good fuel so that your brain does all the things it does. Like I have this thing I call my multi-brain, which my wife says is not a real thing. And hey, um, and then she's looking at me from a corner. Um, but it's this whole idea of like I can work on a painting, and while I'm working on a painting, I can think up all the different kind of forward and back motions in time of what things would look like if I were to do this or if I were to do that or if I did these things and how the technique should go on and work and so on and so forth. And then also at the same time, I'm thinking about how I'm going to film and edit my next video and do all these other things. And sometimes I'm thinking in two different languages, and it's just there's a lot going on up here. The hat holds a lot of stuff in there. Not just dreadlocks, braids. Just, I'm not just pretty. I'm gonna tell you now. No, I just like it. I think it's interesting. I'm trying to think which sketchbook I want to show you guys today. I have so many. It's my nonchalant flex on how busy I get to be. With my arts. I think I know the one I'll show you. One will be an art book for an artist that I really love. She's amazing. Paula Bonet. Paula Bonet is a Spanish artist from Spain. I'm Afro-Latino, for those who don't know, and West Indian. So I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish, I speak English. And so her book is in Spanish. And like most people born in America, I read languages much better than I speak them. So if you come up to me in the street and start speaking Spanish or Portuguese to me, I'm gonna freeze. And my brain's gonna go, and then eventually I'll probably say something. But it's like a common problem. So this is Paula Monet. She is this insanely incredible artist. Her details and her colors are amazing. And I've always loved her work. Her art book kind of inspired me to make some of my own art books. And she has lots of art books. I have lots of art books too. If you'd like to see mine, you can go to the description down below. And it'll take you to a bunch of places. If you look for me on Apple Books, you can look at a few of my art books digitally for free. So, check that out. And my name, Jawara Blake, Jawara, space, Lake with a B, I guess is the best way to think to describe it. Also known as Jaws Balake, as it were. But yeah, Paula just does this like insanely beautiful work. I've always been impressed with her. I've had a few conversations with her actually, which is probably one of the more wonderful things I can think of in my life that I've got to do with famous artists. And she's on Instagram. She's partially on, this is a portrait of her. She's partially on YouTube and a couple of things. Doing some murals, some illustrations. She has this incredible studio that she works out of. She is a women's rights activist in Spain. So she's a very wonderful human being, I would say. But she also makes really great art. And I find her work to be, let me see, what's the right word I want to use? Devastating in its amazingness. I guess is how I would think to describe it. Get up. I gotta find this thing now. Yes, you can look at my butt while I do this. I give permission. It's fine. Don't feel guilty. It happens. Alright. Here's a good one. I remember this one. It's like I said, a lot of times when I do books, when I do sketchbooks, what's up, Beanie? How you been, man? Oh, very spicy food. Made my nose run. So, this is an old book that I did. Not a book, a sketchbook that I did. So, at this point in time, I was doing a lot of all Gucci, Happy New Year. That's what's up. That's what's up. So back at this point, I was doing a lot of pinups, and I was doing a lot of kind of like monster luchador ones. So I started doing kind of work like this. I put out an actual book about this years upon years ago, but these were some of the pieces that I started to work up and do at the time. And so the ones that didn't get in the book, basically. So I have all these other ones that I could always do another book on if I wanted to, but they were just kind of, I was working on, like I said, I was working on all these pinups. I was trying to do all these things, and I was playing with a lot of color, and I was coming with ideas on stuff that I wanted to do as far as like illustrations and just interesting little bits, you know, playing with gold leaf. I didn't really believe in the idea of like buying like good paper at the time, or more so I didn't have money to buy good paper, so I just didn't. And then I would just kind of put these out, and I didn't realize these were even good until people started buying them off of me. And then I was like, wait, you want a what now? And that kind of solidified it for me, that maybe I was on the right path. Maybe I was little weird drawings. Maybe I was doing the right thing the way that I was supposed to be doing it. You know? Sometimes it takes that. I love Adventure Time, so I did a few Ice King drawings for no reason. And it was just great, honestly. It was really great. It was beautiful, and it made me feel it made me feel vindicated, I guess. Not vindicated, validated. Made me feel validated. Maybe vindicated a little bit too. Definitely validated. And so all this work was just kind of coming together. And I was doing a bunch of work with Suicide Girls. So there was all this kind of pinups and drawings and paintings and stuff that we were, excuse me, that we were working on. And so, yeah, I did a bunch of stuff for like backgrounds and a few things for like promotional stuff that they were doing. And they gave me a lot of shout outs and just free random things and stuff like that. But it was cool. It was cool and it was nice. And it's always good to kind of go back and look at your old work and see how you've evolved, you know? Because like as time went by, I started getting more into kind of tattoos and logos and ideas. And I think at the time, honestly, I was a little afraid that my faces weren't expressive enough, so I kept putting masks on them because I was trying to paint them. I was trying to paint them as like women of color who I didn't feel were getting kind of recognized enough as fine art. So a lot of times, almost all the time now, when I paint, I try to paint a lot of brown faces because I feel like they don't. I don't know. You don't get to see them in fine art. Like when you think of when you go to museums and you do all these stuff like you got like Renaissance paintings and stuff like that. Like a lot of times it's the same type of people over and over again. And I didn't want to participate in that. I fell in love with Spider Gwen just like everybody else did. So I did a bunch of apparently stout, thick Spider Gwens that I didn't mean to do. But I like how the color turned out. I like the way the hood fade worked out. And I got more into kind of wilder ideas and perspectives and tattoos and gold leaf and all this stuff. And clothing design. People kept saying like you should design these as actual clothing and people will buy them. And I was like, I guess I could do that, but I don't really want to, so. And I got more abstract, and I got more surreal, and I got more playful with my work. Where I wasn't really afraid to kind of be more open to the concept of just making someone who didn't look like somebody else. I think that's kind of what I think your style, people ask me all the time, like, how do you establish your style as an artist? And the truth is, you're establishing your art by, you figure out your style when you can draw something, leave it alone, and keep moving. A lot of times when I finish sketchbooks, sometimes I don't know what to put on the last page, so I'll just do like some little fan art stuff. So I did Jack Skellington for this one. My color theory has always been very good. So, as I've been told, you want to do another one? We can do another one. As I've been told, my color theory's always been kind of on point. So, I always try to do a lot of colors. So this one, I remember this one vividly because someone asked me could I make them a pinup for their kind of roller derby thing they were doing. And then when I made it, they were like, no, I wanted it more like this. And I was like, well, this is what I made for you, so you can either take it or leave it. And they left it, and I was like, cool. Well, I'm making it into a sticker, and I'm putting it on the sketchbook. So, whatever. I love them. We're still good friends, but it was one of those things where it was like, I'm just going to do as I do, and I'm not worried about it. So, I started getting into more kind of like wild abstracts and playing around with all these kind of strange little ideas of mixing pop culture and mess and wildness and fun and just going for it, you know? Sometimes you just gotta go for it. You gotta figure out which part of art is the most important to you and then focus really on those spots. Like I had an art teacher who used to tell me to really nail textures. So when I do hair, when I do chainmetal, when I do stuff like that, I really focus on the intense, like get real close details to those things. Yes, it can be painful after you do it for a while, but nothing ventured, nothing earned, you know? You gotta go for it. Once again, like I said, this is like sketchbook paper, so this is not this is not quality paper by any means. Like it bleeds through, it does all those things. But as my wife tells me all the time, like a sketchbook is meant to be messy. It's not meant to be finished and perfect and all these things. You're meant to make things and do things. I do find the funny part about a lot of this is when you go to museums and theaters and stuff, you start to realize that a lot of sketches end up becoming these famous things that are hung up and framed in theater in museums. Like we went to the Basquiat exhibit at the Hirshhorn in D.C. and there were a lot of like framed sketches from his like black books and his sketchbooks and all that stuff. And so he was just willing to make a lot of work. I think also a lot of times you have to keep in mind, like sometimes the work that sometimes the work that you're going to be remembered by is not necessarily going to be the work that you choose. Sometimes it's just the work that other people like and they think they want to put up. I mean, like I said, I had people buy pages from these books. It was nice. It was surprising, but it was nice. And you just kind of keep going with that. Like, make your art, be proud of what it is, and continue to keep doing it. Kind of the gist of it. The major idea, the architect, the bits, the pieces, the color, the foreshadowing, the perspectives, the everything. You know? I think I'm trying to remember the name of the art book that I did for that one. That were a bunch of these. I think it's like Imaginary Kingdom, I think is what it's called. I think it's online. I feel like it's on Apple. I feel like it's on Apple Books. You know? I feel like it's on Apple Books. And I just kind of do all these things. I don't know. I loved all these. I loved all these paintings. I thought they were all really fun and beautiful. And I definitely got hit up really badly by YouTube at one point in time because YouTube became super, super conservative. And so they didn't like that I was doing stuff for like LGBTQ and just like representational stuff and whatnot. So it happens. You will not always impress everyone with authority when you show you're talented. So it is what it is. Greetings, Natararu. How are you, brother? But yeah, for those who want to get a close glimpse, this is the hellscape that I put my arm through. No, I love this painting. It's really beautiful, but it's a labor of love. I think a lot of painting is a labor of love. It is snowing outside, so this is a perfect day to do all this stuff and work on things. My setup behind here, my giant apocalypse. Yeah, so I hope you're well. I will see you next week. Hola Galeras. You're wonderful. Painter out. Ciao. Bye.